thought I saw someone standing in the water. Only half of the body was visible above the surface. It was expressionless. Eagle Valley. When I was little, I always looked forward to the weekend because it usually meant my dad was taking us somewhere outdoors to camp. My parents loved nature, mountains, rivers, lakes, and camping. Every time we had a day off, we were either deep in the mountains or somewhere beside a creek. My dad loved the stone slab from the river and used it as a barbecue grill. And honestly, instant noodles cooked with fresh creek water, eggs, and vegetables tasted like a five-star meal back then. One summer weekend, my dad drove us to a place called Eagle Valley. I still remember the weather that day. It wasn't too hot, and the creek water was freezing cold in the best way. After finding a good spot, my dad took out a giant pool float and tied it down with a long rope so all the kids could float safely in the water. There were a lot of families there that day. Other kids kept coming over to play with our giant float. Looking back, there were so many kids around that float, it looked like ants gathering around sugar. The creek didn't seem dangerous at all. The water was shallow enough that, even sitting down, it only reached around a child's waist. I was probably around 8 years old at the time and still didn't know how to swim. So while everyone else played in the water, I mostly stayed near the edge, soaking my feet and waiting for the stone-grilled barbecue and creek noodle soup. Then suddenly, I noticed one of our smaller pool floats drifting away, a little faster. Without thinking, I walked toward the water to grab it. And somehow, I slipped. The next thing I knew, the water was pulling me deeper. I started struggling immediately. I kicked, splashed, and tried desperately to keep my head above water so someone would notice me. Under the water, I could vaguely see my parents getting farther and farther away. I tried to scream for help, but it felt like something was covering my mouth. At the same time, I could feel something holding my ankle and pulling me downward. I remember thinking, this is it. I'm never going to see my parents again. And just as I started losing hope, someone grabbed my hand and pulled me out of the water. It was my dad. He had found me. When we got back to shore, my parents wrapped me in a giant towel while I sat shaking on a rock, coughing and trying to catch my breath. I remember feeling confused because usually, if something dangerous happened, I would have gotten yelled at immediately. But this time, my parents didn't yell at me at all. Instead, they started packing everything up in silence as fast as they could. Right before we left, I turned back and looked toward the part of the creek where I almost drowned. And for a second, I thought I saw someone standing in the water. Only half of the body was visible above the surface. It was expressionless, quietly waving at me. Later, I overheard the adults talking about what happened that day. My dad said he had been distracted playing with my younger sisters when suddenly, far away in the water, he saw a child's hand reaching up from under the surface. Without thinking, he ran over and grabbed me. When he finally pulled me out, he didn't even realize it was me at first because I looked like a completely different child. My face didn't look like mine at all. What shocked him even more was that the water where he found me only reached his calves. On the drive home, my family stopped by a temple to pray and perform a spiritual cleansing ritual for me. The next morning, 5 finger-shaped marks appeared around my ankles and calves.